economy.
Lord, let me, you want to read it?
Okay.
Read it.
Yeah. The federal government should provide free access to higher education to all academically qualified students by subsidizing public colleges because college-educated citizens contribute more to the economy. We're affirmative. They're negative.
And your time starts now.
In the crumbling U.S. economy, where 1% of the population controls 42% of the nation's wealth, and belief in the American dream diminishes each year, we find ourselves in dire straits on the complex task of improving our nation's economy. The failure of trickle-down economics highlights how the government should not subsidize the wealthy, but rather the struggling middle class. A larger and more economically stable middle class will create a virtuous cycle in which businesses will be more supported by the increase in spending ability of consumers, and which will in turn provide more jobs, which will then further fill the middle class's pockets. This seems obvious. However, a task less apparent is formulating a plan to jumpstart this growth of the middle class. Well, the answer lies in education. The Economic Policy Institute reports that providing expanded access to higher quality education will not only expand economic opportunity for residents, but also likely do more to strengthen the overall economy than anything else a government can do. Increase in higher education means an increase in economic prosperity. Sounds great, so we should all just go to college, right? Well, the problem is that with a decreasing capital in the middle class's hands, they oftentimes cannot afford to attend universities which give them the skills to increase earning potential. About 2/3 of college students graduate with student loans. The average debt for a four-year graduate of a public university is close to $20,000, and student loan debt has soared over $1.2 trillion. With this deficit to overcome, many struggle to reach economic stability, which is hindering the growth of the middle class. This is why higher education should be free. All qualified students should have their tuition paid for by the government, as this is the most effective way of ensuring a highly skilled workforce, which will benefit our economy immensely. Of course, this would cost a large sum of money, $62.6 billion. Now, as this number seems astronomical, the truth is that the government already spends $69 billion each year on student loans. So the government would actually be saving money by paying for us to go to college for free. This system is nothing revolutionary. It's being implemented in Europe and is finding huge success in countries like Spain, France, Italy, and more recently Germany. If America wants to rise from this depression, of course our action should be to follow our course of action should be to follow in these countries' footsteps and make higher education accessible to the masses. Thank you.
All right, wait, no pressure, you're September. Now,
Shane, do you believe that subsidizing public universities will benefit middle or lower class more than other?
I believe that it will benefit both, as it will allow the lower class to move up into the middle class, further expanding the middle class's range, and it will allow the middle class to be more economically prosperous, so then they can in turn become better consumers, which will benefit the economy.
Do you think that subsidizing public colleges will immediately change the high school dropout rate among all classes? Immediately.
Well, to be honest, I think if one of the problems with high school dropouts is they feel that, you know, their family maybe is too poor and they're not going to afford to go to college anyway, so what's the point of finishing high school? So if college was free, maybe they'd be more motivated to reach higher education.
all right, 3.5 minutes for our first speaker on the negative. And ready, set, go.
The College Board estimates that the average four-year public university student spends $1,168 each year on textbooks and other study materials. But only about 32.2% of the cost of textbook goes to the actual manufacturing. In addition, college tuition is skyrocketing and is 12 times higher than it was in 1976. There is no question that the university system needs to be reformed. That's not what we're arguing. However, college cannot be free. There are two possible routes that higher education could take if it became free. The first being that lower and middle class students who could usually not pay for tuition would take advantage of the opportunity and escalate the already high competitiveness of college acceptance and employment. Those many people with college degrees will have no use in applying them because there will be no high-level jobs left. America will still have the need for blue-collar workers, but many of these workers will be overqualified. Furthermore, if more people had the opportunity to go to college, then more universities would have to open to support the overwhelming desire to go to college, which would only hurt government debt. The second consequential route would be students taking higher education for granted. Already until we are 17 or 18, we get free education. And if this free ride continued until we were 21 or 22, then people would take education for granted. Imagine high school part 2. Some people would put very little effort into schoolwork because they have nothing invested. University is an investment because you're paying for what you are getting, which is a degree and the ability to earn back that money later in life. The purpose of higher education isn't to eradicate poverty or the class system. It is designed for people who will benefit from it. Our generation has often been called the entitlement generation because we are demanding freebies anywhere we can get them. But this free education still has to be paid for by taxpayers. And once we become those taxpayers, we won't think this idea of free tuition is so grand. By making college free, we are only shifting responsibilities to when we are older. My dad once told me that nothing in life is free. So take responsibility and pay up front for our own college experience instead of mooching off innocent taxpayers.
All right, we're resetting to the cross. And cross time starts now.
Okay, so you said in your speech something, the ability to earn back money later in life. Is that from student loans?
No, from when you make money, you would be able to pay back the student loans and the tuition that you
So are you glorifying the hierarchy of banking?
What?
Through student loans, bankers make lots of money, correct? Yes,
Okay.
and they create a larger gap between the lower class who can't get money for college. You're glorifying that how bankers can make a bunch of money off of student loans.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that.
But you're saying that student
Time, 2 minutes. Ready, set, go.
As the other team has stated, tuition is skyrocketing, and that is true. And for that reason, college education does need to be free. In addition to that, they also said that the students would most likely take advantage. However, we just said that that the only people that would get this free education would be those academically qualified. So if you're academically qualified, then you would not be taking advantage of what is given to you. You'd be using it for your benefit, yes, but you would not be taking advantage of it. In addition, they said that it would be unfair to the taxpayers. However, it would cost them no more than it's already costing them. In fact, it would cost them less. It is estimated according to the Department of Education that it would only cost $62.6 billion to have free higher education. However, currently, the federal government is spending $69 billion in student aid, and that's excluding student loans, which is approximately $107.4 billion. It would cost less overall in order to have free higher education. But at this current time, the cost of college outweighs any benefit that there is. The average student comes out with $26,000 in debt because of the cost of college and tuition. However, according to the U.S. Department of Treasury, if you have a college degree, you'll be able to rise up in the quintile classes as compared to those who do not have higher education. In addition, with the cost, according to a study at the West Virginia University, for every $1 spent on higher education for students, those students will in turn provide an additional $4 to the economy.
You mentioned that the only students who are academically qualified would get in. What about the people who are academically qualified but come from very wealthy families? They would receive the free education as well, correct?
Yeah.
So, but they would be able to afford it. So, like, how can you address the problem of people who don't really care about college and don't want to pay college and paying for other people who can't afford it?
Will you
Like the people who can't afford for college, they would be receiving the benefit, correct? What about the people who choose not to go to college? Should they have to pay for those people who can afford it but are getting the free education anyway?
Well, if you're not going to college, then you're not paying.
Yes, you are. The taxes. Like, for free colleges, wouldn't people have to pay taxes, a little more taxes? And those taxes go to support the free college, correct?
Economic
Alright, 3 minutes, ready?
Looking at this issue from an economic perspective, free public college is not feasible. We are not contesting the fact that college tuition in America is spiraling out of control and currently outrageously high. However, subsidizing public universities so that they are free is not the answer. There are consequences to free public universities. The person who pays for an education and the person who receives the benefit from the education should be directly aligned. It is okay for someone to take out student loans because on average, a college-educated person earns $17,500 more annually than someone with a high school degree. A college education is worth the investment. College education is extremely worthwhile, but if the education becomes free, students will be less likely to value it. Many studies have shown that consumers will value products that cost more. A consumer will value more and enjoy more a bottle of wine that costs $19.99 than a bottle that costs $5.99. A person paying $60,000 to attend a college will be more likely to attend the classes and receive the utmost benefit from the education. However, if higher education is made free, the students will value it less and not receive the utmost benefit from the education. This is evident in studies that have shown that student completion rates at community college is actually higher when the tuition is higher because the students have skin in the game. If the government subsidizes public education, the public will still have to pay, but in higher taxes instead of tuition. In 2012, public colleges and universities collected $62.6 billion in tuition from undergraduates. This amount would have to be collected from taxes from the American people. In Germany, the colleges are free, but the income tax is 49% to support the free public colleges. This is a possible outcome in America as well. Another consequence is that if everybody took an extra year of college because it was free, the financial burden on the public coffers would increase by 33%. Additionally, to address some of the points they brought up, free public college would not immediately address all economic problems. It's not going to immediately change the entire class system in America. It will have maybe some benefits, but it's not the end-all be-all solution. While it is true that current college tuition costs are distressing, subsidizing public universities will only shift the cost from tuition to taxes, and the education will be valued less. In order for college education to be the most beneficial, students must have skin in the game in the form of at least some tuition.
1 minute drive. Ready, set, go.
You said, do you think that a reason that people enjoy materials and stuff, such as colleges, that cost more, could be that it generally means that it is better quality?
True, so are you going to say that if free public college becomes free, that the college will be less quality because it's free?
No, that since the people who would be going there would, because you're saying that they would like take advantage of it, but and that they would be less likely to attend, and that it would be worthless. But if they're,
Yeah, because like let's say if you go to a private school, you're going to Mission, and you're paying like $20,000 a year. You're going to go to your parents are going to make you go to classes. You're going to go to classes because you're paying money. Public school people skip classes all the time. You know that because they're not paying for anything. If you pay for something, you're going to go for it because you're paying for it and you don't want to lose that money.
Okay. We have a recording time of 2 minutes.
We were
If
close.
we can skip that, that would be great. Yeah. Okay. We're skipping regrouping time. We're going straight on to closings. If the bell rings, we should be fine. But if the bell rings, please do not leave. And please make sure you save your score sheets for tomorrow. I'm going to just collect them all on Friday. Ready, set, closing.
17 trillion. 907,805,627,535 dollars. According to the U.S. Treasury, as of November 7th, 2014, at exactly 11 seconds past 8:11 a.m. Pacific time, that is U.S. National Day. My question, how? How did this happen? Perfect. It was answered perfectly. There is no intervention. There is no or much too scarceness of collaboration between the government's assets and the economy's future assets. No, not assets of the Fortune 500 companies of Shell and Walmart. No, but the assets that will do something for our country's economic future. An educated middle class, an educated lower class, an educated upper class for free. The statistics stated earlier from both Francie and Shane informed you that it would cost $62 billion to provide free education, free college education to students in the U.S. When comparing that to our national debt, the cost to pay for free education is 0.35%, which means for every $10,000, only $35 would need to be given to make college education free. $35 to expanding the middle class. $35 to saving our economy. $35 so that 81% of Americans can make more than their parents, as opposed to the 69% of people without college degrees that make the same or less than their parents, according to the U.S. Department of Treasury. $35 to exponentially increasing consumerism, resulting in a decrease of inflation and money creation, which is up 587%, if I might say. I digress. Which in turn increases the global value of the American dollar, thus beginning the virtuous cycle once again. The middle class is educated, so the middle class can get jobs. So the middle class gets money. Thus, they buy luxury goods, making more money for businesses. And in turn, making more money for the middle class, stimulating our economy, making it better. Only $35 to stop 17.9 trillion.
The $17.9 trillion of student debt that Tony Carr was just talking about would only, if college was free, that debt would only transfer into federal debt, which is only delaying responsibility. There aren't any immediately large benefits that make college education free. Either it becomes over-competitive and negatively affects the cognitive abilities of America's youth, or students will take education for granted so that it has no value. There are many countries outside of the U.S., like the other team stated, that offer free education, but some of them demonstrate the possible consequences we brought up. In Brazil, the government offers scholarships for graduate degrees such as master's or doctoral, but the competition is fierce. In Finland and Norway, tuition is free, but the cost of living is much higher. In Germany, tuition is free, but registration fees and textbooks are usually not. And once again, the cost of living is higher. Also, as mentioned before, the income tax is about 49%, which is more than 10% higher than America's. In England, there used to be free education, but the government was unable to sustain it, so now there are top-up fees of up to £3,000. Other countries show that there are downsides to free education, and the public will still have to bear most of the cost. The public would still have to pay increased tax rates to sustain universities, an amount equal to $62.6 billion. How long America will be able to sustain this practice is unknown. Additionally, if there is no limit on how many years of an undergraduate degree is paid for, the burden of the American people would increase even more as people take 5 or 6 or even 7 years to finish their degree. Additionally, making college free will not immediately solve student achievement rates or suddenly decrease the amount of high school dropouts. Subsidizing public education is not an end-all solution to all problems in education. It may help increase applications to college, but may not have any other effects. Instead of making college free, students should still fill out the FAFSA application, work to raise money, and apply for as many scholarships as possible. In the meantime, students should lobby for the government to lower current tuition costs and reform the university system. But free public education is not the answer.
All right.